SMT Nation, we back. Verizon's talking, and we're going to listen. I think Verizon has to be in one of the most precarious positions of any telco in the industry right now. Right? T-Mobile's got great momentum. Right? They are perceived in a very positive way. You know, AT&T's working through some things. You know, there's certain aspects of their business they got to fine tune. And then in the case of Verizon, they just overhauled their plans. And they have been changing leadership for several quarters. So to me, I think they're very interesting. All right, so I'm listening. I'm checking out what the CEO has to say in this instance, Hans Vestberg, speaking about the new plans and the I guess the way the industry is treating the company. So let's pick this article apart. I'll be sure to link it for you in the description box. Also in the description is the Real SMT Buy Me a Coffee link. If you appreciate the content on the SMT YouTube channel, you want to support us, you appreciate the live streams, the podcast, the commentary videos, the testing, all that, show us some love and buy us a coffee. Link in the description. And if you're looking for a good deal on wireless service and you want legendary customer care, we have partnered with mmWave. Use our unique partner link that's in the description. You'll get a great deal on wireless, and you'll be supporting the channel in the process. Check them out. Link in the description. Okay, so this article from Monica Alvin, FierceWireless.com, indicates that when asked a lot of questions, Hans Vestberg does seem to be a little bit more transparent than ever. I feel like last year, being that it was like the worst year in the company's history and recent history that I can remember, you can kind of see why he was in a very bad mood in pretty much every quarter. It was hard for him to act and pretend because the company wasn't performing, right? They had extraordinarily high churn for their company, right? Relative to their historical numbers, right? The revenues and things like that weren't exactly where they wanted them to be. Of course, they were losing customers, right? But he seems a little bit more upbeat, and he's more willing to answer and talk to the investor community. Okay, so JP Morgan conference, right? These are people with a lot of money who wrap it up in these telcos and invest. They want to know what's going on, right? They launched My Plan, a completely new structure to their plans. $65 or $80 a month if you want the Welcome Unlimited or the Unlimited Plus. And then you pay $10 an add-on for things like Disney Plus and Apple TV and whatever else you want. Now, what Verizon did there is it's a complete pivot from what they've been doing in the past, which was put a bunch of value into your plans and try to compete with respect to pricing. It didn't work. They had a really bad year. So they're shifting. And this is exactly what I said on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. Verizon took a list of things and they gave it to customers and took their feedback. And some of the things that customers said they wanted was flexibility, simplicity, and better cost. Verizon feels that they addressed those things with these new plans, right? Putting the customer in control and then still focusing on margins. In fact, the new consumer group CEO, Sampath, said last week that Verizon stands to make at a 30% margin on the add-ons, right? So that's going to address their ARPU or their ARPA, however you want to look at it, right? So it improves their margins, it improves their profitability. All right, now we're going to see if the customers take to it, right? That's really what it's going to be about. We're getting the vibes that they've addressed the churn, things have stabilized based on Q1, which is historically their worst Q, which kind of can lead us to start thinking a little bit more positively about Verizon. If your churn was improved and stable for Q1, that probably means good things for Q2, 3, and 4. So I think that's probably why Hans is encouraged, and that's why Sampath, the new CEO, is encouraged, and they can kind of feel good about the direction of the rest of the year. Now, some things that he also mentioned, right? They want to be evaluated in service revenue growth, and then EBITDA and cash flow, which I think those metrics are going to be good for Verizon this year. Anybody who was going to churn was going to churn last year. Verizon knew that was coming. They knew when they raised prices and increased prices, they were going to have churn. They cannot sustain another price increase and subsequent churn because customers that didn't leave because of the price increase last year would leave this time if it were to happen again, and they know it. Sampath even stated so last week when he spoke to the investor conference. Okay, so those things are definitely in play, right? Those things, Verizon is going to have to do some other type of adjustments to their business model. He also spoke to the killer application for 5G, which today is network capacity, and then Verizon monetizing that with fixed wireless access. Almost 400,000 fixed wireless access net adds in Q1 of 2023 alone. They are now approaching 2 million subscribers in this service. 50% of all Verizon's radios are using Verizon's fiber. That is confirmed. So while, AT&T is working towards a 75% mark themselves, right? That's something that T-Mobile can't do, right? So this highlights the strength that Verizon has as the owner and operator of its network. Verizon's CapEx this year will range between $18.25 $19.25 billion, down from $24 billion last year. Remember, Verizon was still at that like 18 to 19 billion, but they spent $6 billion additional dollars in CapEx just on C-band. And that's mostly done. Remember, they've upgraded a large majority of their tower sites already, seeing that most of them are in these top 100 metros. So they're going to continue to boost capacity, upgrade their network, but they're going to do so at a lower CapEx intensity. I think what Hans did here today was very strategic, showing that there is some relief on the way to the investor. He's basically saying the headwinds are behind them, right? The hard part of investing, the front end on C-band and upgrading the network, right? And I think also the fact that they've gone through that whole churn phase and things are starting to look a little bit better. I think it is time that anybody who's down on Verizon can start to look for, I don't know if it's a turnaround, but I think it's just not as bad as it used to be. Last year was a train wreck, and Hans should be evaluated as such. Last year was probably the worst year in the history of the company, and he was at the helm of it. Those were his decisions. He has to live with those mistakes. He can be evaluated as such. I don't need, a Hans apologist to come into the comment section here and try to justify that it wasn't a bad year. It was the worst possible year they could have had. Meanwhile, a lot of other companies were growing, except Verizon. So I'm going to go ahead and hold his feet to the fire. We're going to evaluate him in 2023 a little bit differently, right? But I'm not going to judge him this year based on last year. I'm going to judge him this year based on prior years in totality, right? And I want to see how this year, how he performs relative to the market against AT&T, against T-Mobile. Those are his competitors. You don't compare today's Verizon to last year's Verizon, which was their worst year ever. Not going to happen here. Not on the SMT. Not going to happen. We're going to evaluate him through the rest of the year. We're going to look to see market improvement, and we're going to call a spade a spade. We shall see if the new plan structure and all these things he discussed in this commentary hold up and are true. What do you guys think? Sound off in the comment section below. You are the voice of the people, the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard.